Imagine scrolling through Zillow late at night and stumbling across a listing that makes you do a 3-bedroom house in a major American city for $5,000. Not a typo. Not a scam listing. An actual house with a roof, walls, windows, and a yard for less than the price of a decent used car. Picture yourself imagining the possibilities. Paying cash for a whole house. No mortgage. No landlord. Complete home ownership for the price of a vacation. In a time when the average American home costs over $400,000 and first-time buyers are increasingly locked out of the market. The idea of a $5,000 house sounds like the loophole everyone's been searching for. But here's what nobody tells you when you're daydreaming about that viral Zillow screenshot. That $5,000 house in Detroit might actually cost you $60,000 by the time you're redone. And that's if everything goes relatively well, scattered across Detroit's neighborhoods. There are thousands of houses listed for prices that seem impossible. Rust Belt relics, abandoned properties, tax foreclosed homes, and bank-owned disasters that carry price tags lower than a new iPhone. The headlines write themselves. The TikToks go viral, and dreamers across America start Googling how to move to Detroit. Whether you're a first-time buyer desperate to escape the rental trap, an investor hunting for cash flow properties, a remote worker dreaming of mortgage-free living, or simply someone who saw one of those too good to be true listings and wondered what the catch is, this video is going to save you from making a potentially devastating financial mistake. Or, for the right person with the right resources and expectations, it might show you how to actually make one of these deals work. In today's video, we're pulling back the curtain on Detroit's ultra-cheap housing market, revealing every hidden cost, unexpected expense, and brutal truth that separates the viral dream from the expensive reality. Let's break down exactly why that $5,000 house might actually set you back $60,000. And whether it's ever worth rolling the dice. The headline price: why houses cost $5,000 first. Let's understand why these houses exist at all. Detroit's population peaked at 1.85 million people in 1950. Today, it's around 620,000. That's a loss of over 1.2 million residents in roughly 7 decades. When people leave, they leave behind houses. And when nobody wants to buy those houses, prices collapse to almost nothing. Many of these ultra-cheap properties are tax-foreclosed homes. When owners stop paying property taxes, the county eventually seizes the property and auctions it off. The Wayne County Treasurer's Office holds regular auctions where houses sell for their back tax amounts, often just a few $1,000s. Other cheap properties come from banks that foreclosed during the 2008 housing crisis and have held on to deteriorating assets ever since. They're often willing to accept almost any offer just to get the property off their books. Some are inherited houses that heirs don't want to maintain, insure, or pay taxes on. They'd rather sell for pennies than deal with the burden. The result: houses listed for $5,000, $10,000, sometimes even $500 in extreme cases. But here's the critical thing to understand. The listing price is not the purchase price. And the purchase price is nowhere close to the true cost of ownership. Hidden cost number 1: back taxes and liens. Let's start with the first trap that catches almost every newcomer. That $5,000 house almost certainly has back taxes owed. In Detroit, if a property has been abandoned or neglected for years, the tax debt accumulates. And in Michigan, property taxes don't disappear when a house is sold through normal channels. The debt transfers to the new owner. Detroit's property tax rate is approximately 2.8%, one of the highest in the nation. On a house with an assessed value of $40,000, that's roughly $1,100 per year. If the previous owner stopped paying 5 years ago, you could inherit over $5,000 in back taxes on day one. But it gets worse. Water and sewer liens are handled separately in Detroit. The Detroit Water and Sewerage Department places liens on properties for unpaid bills. These can easily reach $3,000 to $8,000 on an abandoned property. And these liens survive the sale. Then there are demolition liens. If the city has previously assessed the property for blight, ordered repairs, or even demolished a neighboring garage that was attached, those costs become liens against the property. I've seen demolition liens exceed $10,000. Before you even hand over your $5,000 purchase price, you need to conduct a thorough title search. Total liens on an ultra-cheap Detroit house commonly range from $8,000 to $25,000. Let's add it up so far. Purchase price, $5,000. Potential liens, $15,000. On the conservative side, we're already at $20,000, and you haven't touched the house yet. Hidden cost number 2. The renovation reality. Now let's talk about what everyone dramatically underestimates. Renovation costs. Houses that sell for $5,000 are not move-in ready. They are almost universally in states of significant disrepair. We're talking about properties that have been vacant for years, often vandalized, frequently stripped of valuable materials, and exposed to Michigan's brutal winters without heating. Let me break down the typical condition and costs. Roofs. A house that's been vacant for years almost certainly has roof damage. Water has been entering the structure. A basic roof replacement in Detroit runs $12,000 to $20,000 for a typical bungalow. Plumbing. Copper pipes are worth money as scrap metal. Vacant Detroit houses are routinely stripped of their plumbing by scrappers. Replumbing an entire house costs $8,000 to $15,000. Electrical. Same story. Copper wiring gets stolen! Even if it wasn't stolen, old electrical systems don't meet code. Rewiring a house runs $5,000 to $12,000. HVAC. The furnace is either missing, ancient, or destroyed. A new furnace installation costs $4,000 to $8,000. Adding central air pushes that higher. Water damage. Years of roof leaks mean damaged walls, ceilings, subfloors, and potentially structural elements. Remediation and repair costs vary wildly, but easily reach $10,000 to $30,000. Foundation. Detroit's clay soil causes foundation issues. Cracks, settling, and water intrusion are common. Foundation repairs can range from minor $3,000 fixes to catastrophic $30,000 projects. Windows and doors, often broken, rotted, or missing entirely. Replacement costs run $3,000 to $8,000 depending on quantity and quality. Cosmetic work. After fixing everything that's broken, you still need paint, flooring, fixtures, and finishes. Budget, another $5,000 to $15,000 minimum. Let's be conservative and assume moderate damage. Not the worst case scenario. You're already looking at minimum renovation costs of $35,000 to $50,000 for a house that has been vacant and neglected. And that's if you're doing significant work yourself or finding extremely cheap labor. Hiring licensed contractors in Detroit for a full renovation can easily exceed $70,000. Running total: purchase price $5,000, liens $15,000, renovation $40,000. That's $60,000. And we haven't covered everything yet. Hidden cost number 3. Holding costs while you renovate. Here's something most people never think about. While you're renovating a house, you're paying for it to sit there. Property taxes don't pause during renovation. At Detroit's rate, you're paying roughly $90 to $150 per month, depending on assessed value. A 6-month renovation costs $500 to $900 in taxes alone. Insurance is mandatory, and insuring a vacant property during renovation is expensive and difficult. Many standard insurers won't cover vacant homes. Specialty vacant property insurance runs $150 to $300 per month in Detroit. A 6-month renovation adds $900 to $1,800. Utilities need to be active for renovation work. Electricity for power tools. Water for plumbing tests. Budget $100 to $200 monthly, adding another $600 to $1,200. Security is a serious concern. Vacant properties in struggling Detroit neighborhoods get broken into. Construction materials get stolen. Scrap is returned for any new copper you've installed. Many investors hire security services, install heavy-duty locks, or visit properties daily. Budget for either security costs or the risk of theft. Holding costs for a 6-month renovation conservatively add $2,000 to $5,000 to your total running total, now approaching $65,000. Hidden cost number 4. The permit and inspection nightmare. Detroit requires permits for virtually all significant renovation work. Electrical, plumbing, structural changes, even re-roofing requires permits. Permit fees vary, but typically run $500 to $1,500 total for a comprehensive renovation. Here's the real cost. Time. Detroit's building, safety, engineering, and environmental department is notoriously backlogged. Getting permits approved can take weeks or months. Every delay extends your holding costs. Inspections are required at multiple stages. If you fail an inspection, you redo work and wait for re-inspection. Each cycle adds time and money. Some investors try to skip permits and do work under the table. This is extremely risky. Unpermitted work can result in fines, forced removal of renovations, and major problems when you try to sell or insure the property. Budget $1,000 to $3,000 for permits, fees, and the inevitable delays. Hidden cost number 5. The insurance trap. Let's say you successfully renovate the house. Now you need insurance to protect your investment. Here's the problem. Insurance companies are extremely hesitant to cover properties in high-risk Detroit neighborhoods. Many major insurers simply won't write policies. Those that will charge premium rates. Annual homeowners insurance in risky Detroit neighborhoods can run $2,000 to $4,000 per year. Compare that to the national average of around $1,600. If you can't find standard insurance, you may be forced into the Michigan Fair Plan, the insurer of last resort. Coverage is limited and expensive. Some properties are simply uninsurable at reasonable rates. This limits your ability to get financing if you ever wanted to refinance. It puts your entire investment at risk. Budget at least $2,000 annually for potentially much more. Hidden cost number 6. The property tax trap. Remember, Detroit's 2.8% property tax rate. Here's the trap. When you renovate a $5,000 house and turn it into a livable home, the city reassesses its value. Suddenly, your property isn't worth $5,000 anymore. It might be assessed at $60,000, $80,000, or more, depending on the quality of your renovation. At 2.8%, an $80,000 assessment means annual property taxes of $2,240. That's almost $200 monthly in perpetuity. If you bought the house expecting minimal ongoing costs, this hits hard. Many investors are shocked when that tax bill triples or quadruples after renovation. Detroit's high tax rate, combined with reassessment after improvement, creates a financial burden that can undermine the entire investment thesis. Hidden costs. Number 7, the neighborhood reality. Let's talk honestly about something that matters enormously to your investment: location. $5,000 houses aren't in Detroit's booming neighborhoods like Corktown, Midtown, or East English Village. They're in areas that have experienced decades of disinvestment, population loss, and concentrated poverty. This reality creates several financial impacts. Appreciation is uncertain. While some Detroit neighborhoods are seeing rapid gentrification and price increases, others remain stagnant. Your $60,000 investment might be worth $60,000 in 5 years, or it might decline. Rental income potential is limited. If you're planning to rent the property, market rents in distressed neighborhoods are low. A renovated 3-bedroom might rent for $700 to $900 per month. After taxes, insurance, maintenance, and vacancy, your cash flow is thin or negative. Tenant quality concerns are real. Lower-income neighborhoods have higher rates of tenant turnover, payment issues, and property damage. Managing rentals in these areas requires more time, effort, and expense. Personal safety considerations exist. Some ultra-cheap neighborhoods have elevated crime rates. This affects your quality of life if you plan to live there and creates liability exposure if you're a landlord. None of this means these investments can't work, but it means realistic expectations are essential. Hidden cost number 8. The time investment money isn't the only cost. Time is equally significant. Managing a Detroit renovation from out of state is extremely difficult. You either need to be present regularly, which costs travel money, or you need to hire local project managers, which costs management fees of typically 10% to 15% of renovation costs. Finding reliable contractors in Detroit is challenging. Many areas have contractor shortages, and the available workers are stretched thin. Vetting contractors, getting competitive bids, and managing timelines requires substantial time investment. Dealing with city bureaucracy for permits, inspections, and code compliance takes time. Learning Detroit's specific regulations, processes, and requirements has a learning curve. If you value your time at any reasonable hourly rate, add thousands of dollars in opportunity cost to your calculation. The full math: $5,000 to $60,000 or more. Let's add everything up with conservative estimates. Purchase price: $5,000. Back taxes and liens: $10,000 to $20,000. Renovation costs: $35,000 to $55,000. Holding costs during renovation: $2,000 to $5,000. Permits and fees: $1,000 to $3,000. First year insurance: $2,000 to $3,000. First year property taxes post renovation: $1,500 to $2,500. title search, closing costs, and legal fees, $1,000 to $2,000. Total first-year investment, $57,500 to $95,500. The midpoint is approximately $75,000. That $5,000 house actually costs $60,000 to $90,000 by the time you have a livable, legal, insured property. And that's assuming no major surprises, no foundation disasters, no contractor fraud, and no major theft during renovation. Who this actually works for now. Before you completely write off Detroit's ultra-cheap housing, let me be clear. For certain buyers with specific circumstances, these deals can genuinely work. Experienced investors with renovation expertise who can do significant work themselves dramatically reduce labor costs. If you can personally handle plumbing, electrical, and carpentry, your renovation might cost $20,000 instead of $50,000. Local buyers who can manage projects personally without travel costs and time away from primary income have major advantages. Cash buyers who can move quickly and hold properties without financing pressure, avoid interest costs, and have negotiating leverage on distressed sales. Patient investors with long-time horizons who can wait for neighborhood improvement may see significant appreciation over 10 to 20 years. Buyers seeking primary residencies who are willing to live in a house during renovation, doing work gradually, can spread costs over years rather than front-loading everything. Nonprofit developers and community organizations who have access to grants, tax credits, and subsidized financing can make deals work that wouldn't work for individual investors. For these buyers, a realistic all-in cost of $40,000 to $60,000 for a renovated Detroit house can still represent excellent value compared to buying in most American cities. Who should absolutely avoid this? Equally important is knowing when to stay away. Out-of-state buyers with no Detroit connections who plan to manage renovation remotely are set up for failure. Distance creates information asymmetry that bad contractors, corrupt inspectors, and opportunistic scammers exploit. First-time investors using Detroit as their learning experience are taking enormous risk. Detroit real estate is not beginner-friendly. The city has specific challenges, complex regulations, and pitfalls that catch even experienced investors. Buyers expecting quick flips for easy profit are usually disappointed. The cheap neighborhoods aren't seeing the rapid appreciation that makes fix and flip profitable. Renovation timelines extend longer than expected, eating into margins. Anyone without cash reserves for surprises is in danger. Every Detroit renovation reveals unexpected costs. If you're financing the purchase on a razor-thin budget, one major surprise can derail the entire project. Buyers who haven't visited Detroit in person and walked the specific neighborhoods are making uninformed decisions. Online photos and Google Street View don't capture the reality of ground-level conditions. The honest truth about Detroit real estate. Let me step back and offer some broader perspective. Detroit is genuinely experiencing a renaissance. Downtown and Midtown are thriving. Major employers, including General Motors, Quicken Loans, and Henry Ford Health System, provide stable jobs. The tech and creative economies are growing. Young professionals are moving in, and certain neighborhoods are seeing real appreciation. But this renaissance is highly concentrated in specific areas. The neighborhoods where $5,000 houses exist are generally not experiencing this revival yet. They remain in transition at best, continuing decline at worst. Detroit real estate can be a legitimate investment opportunity, but it requires treating it like the complex, challenging market it is Not like a video game where you buy cheap properties and magically profit. The gap between the TikTok fantasy and the ground level reality is enormous. People who bridge that gap successfully do so through experience, local knowledge, realistic budgeting, and patient execution. People who fail do so because they believed the viral headline without understanding what they were actually buying. Before you buy the due diligence checklist, if after all this, you're still interested in exploring Detroit's ultra-cheap housing market, here's what you absolutely must do before buying anything. Get a professional title search. Identify all liens, back taxes, water bills, and other encumbrances before making any offer. This typically costs $200 to $400 and is money extremely well spent. Visit the property in person. Walk the neighborhood at different times of day. Talk to neighbors. Understand the ground level reality that photos can't capture. Get a professional inspection. Yes, even on a $5,000 house. Especially on a $5,000 house. Understanding exactly what's wrong informs your renovation budget. Get contractor estimates before buying. Have local contractors walk the property and provide written estimates for necessary work. This reveals whether your budget assumptions are realistic. Research comparable sales. What have renovated properties in this specific neighborhood actually sold for? What are realistic rents? Base your investment thesis on real data, not hope. Consult a Detroit real estate attorney. Michigan has specific laws around tax foreclosures, land contracts, and property lien. Legal counsel costs money up front, but saves far more in avoided disasters. Connect with local investor networks. Detroit has active real estate investor communities who can provide mentorship, contractor referrals, and reality checks. Their experience is invaluable. The final verdict. So, should you buy a $5,000 house in Detroit? The honest answer, almost certainly not. If you're re-asking this question after seeing a viral post online without prior real estate experience or Detroit-specific knowledge, but for the right buyer, with realistic expectations, adequato capturo, local knowledge or connections, and willingness to do the hard work. Detroit's distressed properties can still represent opportunity. The key is understanding that the $5,000 price tag is a marketing illusion. The real cost is $40,000, $60,000, $80,000, or more. When you evaluate the opportunity at the real cost, the question becomes more reasonable. Is a renovated Detroit house worth $60,000 to $80,000? In many cases, yes. You can own a renovated home for a fraction of what it costs in most American cities. You can have positive cash flow rentals that would be impossible in expensive markets. You can be part of a neighborhood's eventual revival, but only if you go in with eyes open, budget accurately, and execute patiently. The $5,000 house isn't a scam, but the dream of easy, cheap homeownership it represents absolutely is. So there you have it. The complete, honest breakdown of why a $5,000 house in Detroit might actually cost you $60,000 or more by the time everything is said and done. The hidden costs are real. Liens, back, taxes, renovation, insurance, permits, property taxes, holding costs, and time. They transform a viral dream into a serious financial undertaking that requires expertise, capital, and patience. Here's my question for you. After hearing all this, does Detroit real estate still interest you? Or has this changed your perspective completely? Drop your thoughts in the comments below. I'm genuinely curious what you're thinking. If this video saved you from a costly mistake, or if it helped you understand an opportunity more realistically, smash that like button and subscribe. For more honest breakdowns of American real estate hidden costs and opportunities that are more complex than the headlines suggest, and if you're curious about places where cheap housing actually works out better, check out the video appearing on your screen right now. Because here's the truth. Affordable homeownership is still possible in America, but it requires looking past the viral posts and understanding what you're actually buying. The best deals aren't the ones with the lowest price tags. They're the ones where you fully understand every cost before you commit. That knowledge is worth far more than any $5,000 house. Thanks for watching.